Now, of course, I'm being quite unfair to the majority of people that read the Bible without studying it and therefore believe the world is about 6,000 years old and things of that nature. But I have to say it because there is a danger in fundamentalism. When I was a boy, there were about 3 or 4 universities in Australia. Today I could hardly count them. The world is drastically different to the world of Dwight L. Moody. Moody could rush out and grab a man in the street, say, "Do you believe in Christ?" That's not the best procedure for Christians today, because most people today in the Western world seek an education, and that education is determined and based and grounded on certain presuppositions that have been hospitably entertained by the Western world for centuries, but which are dead wrong. And the 20th century has proved them wrong. These presuppositions that have led to the thinking of the educated people of our world include these two: the inevitability of progress. The Western world believed that till World War I, the inevitability of progress. Hegel said all men reflect God, and the state is the best representation of God. So men invested in a colossus called the state, which ultimately made men serve them instead of them serving the state, and the result was a colossal, universal Golgotha, resulting in World War I and World War II. That was one presupposition taught in the universities for centuries: the inevitability of progress. When Darwin came along with his theory on the origin of men, that seemed to prove it. And so the world said we must find utopia, and we can do it because progress is inevitable. But the result wasn't utopia. The result was, in World War I and II, about 70 million people died, and about as many people died in the same century as a result of the various Western states, and China included, because of Chairman Mao, about 30 million Chinese lost their life. He tried to make a utopia. He told the peasants, kill every sparrow. They're pests. So the peasants, millions of them, killed all the sparrows. And as a result, there was a disharmony because in the growth of agriculture, because the sparrows destroyed all the vermin. And a terrible famine came, and millions of Chinese had died. The search for utopia just led to a Chinese Golgotha. And then the second assumption taught in universities for centuries is that man is naturally good. The reason most people for centuries, recent centuries, would not listen to Christians, because Christians taught that there's something wrong with all of us, something drastically wrong, and we need help. But worldlings don't believe that. Worldlings believe that men are naturally good. Along comes World War I, and within another 20 years, World War II, and that myth is dispelled. Both myths. Progress is not inevitable. Man is not naturally good. And the state doesn't lead to utopia, but often leads to Golgotha. Terrible, terrible pain and anguish. So in the 20th century, we have people who go to universities, and there's still a hangover from those two presuppositions, despite the testimony of World War II, because we so readily forget. After the Holocaust, the world said, never again. Never again? Balkans, Kosovo, Rwanda, Darfur, Never again. 60 wars since World War II. The world quickly forgets. And so most of us who've been exposed to universities are exposed to a kind of brainwashing. And I've been to 3 and spent years there. And the brainwashing is teaching the old presuppositions the 20th century really destroyed for thinking people. Take H.G. Wells. He was a thinker. He said there's a race between education and catastrophe. But when we remember what happened in Germany, which had the best educated people and the best scientists, when we remember that, when we recall that Hitler had a whole bevy of PhDs on his staff, Goebbels had a PhD from Heidelberg, H.G. Wells said, when we remember that, what chance has education got against catastrophe? So we are naturally slow to learn what we most need to learn. The world is in pain because it doesn't understand the nature of life, the nature of truth, the nature of man, the nature of God. And the only defense against the world is to understand the world. But when people come out of universities, they do come out with a measure of truth. The tree that did the damage in the beginning was a tree of good and evil. Never forget, the worst poisons are those that have some sweetness mixed in. And at universities, there is a considerable amount of practical truth that is taught. And people that go to universities and are exposed to history and to science know very well that this world is a good deal older than 6,000 to 10,000 years. So when a fundamentalist Christian approaches them with the gospel, they just laugh. There's the damage. There is the damage. That gives us no right to despise any fundamentalist. If a man loves God and loves his neighbour, he's accepted by God in heaven. But because as Christians, it is our duty to find the truth and to pursue it, we have to beware the dangers involved in liberalism, conservatism, and fundamentalism. They all have measures of danger.